like if it's probability, then it's like that. Like that's how the curriculum will be. The curriculum is not based on stuff that's necessarily in favor of our culture, or minority culture, but it's based off of European American, like white America. That's really what it's based off of. So a lot of people see that, and then minorities don't always have the best ways of getting to college, getting to higher education, to getting to be able to expand their mindset all the time. So you have some minorities that don't take school seriously. When I was in middle school, I did not take school seriously. When I was in high school, I didn't take school seriously. Honestly, sorry to say that, but that's just how sometimes it is. Sometimes our culture is not always for education, but if you hang out with more white people, you hang out with Asians, and you kind of diversify yourself, you're not hanging around just one crowd of people. I'm not saying like all African Americans don't take school seriously, but I'm saying that in our culture, you will see a lot of people in the minority groups that are struggling more in school. So if you are, honestly, what my parents told me, if I hung out with like white people in school, then my teacher would notice that, and while they're grading their paper, they'll grade my paper and be like, oh, well, probably worked on it with him. Well, I'll kind of sway the grade a little bit. Like, and that's what they told me. Do I know if that's true? No clue. But I will say my grades have looked spectacular since I tried that. It is, and I think it's just off of who you hang out with, though. It's not a racial thing. There's smart every race. Actually, I had a story to tell you guys off of that. But you guys can ask me another question because I lost it.
Well, in our book, Dear Martin, Justice, the main character, is writing a diary to document his life. So that if he can help him process situations like this negative interaction between a cop and another classmate. Have you ever thought that way or done something like that in connection to your life experience?
Interact with a cop, like have a negative mindset.
Yeah.
Yep.
Writing to someone or writing a diary.
Well, my story, I wrote a story that got published. It's in the college textbook right now, Dr. Hartlip, and it's about social injustice and things along that regard. And I'm sorry, repeat that question. That was a really good question. I want to make sure I answer that right.
In our book, Dear Martin, Justice, is writing a diary to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. so that it can help him process situations like his negative interaction with the police officer in another class.
There we go. That's it. All right. Yeah, I got it now. Yeah. When I first encountered the issue with the police officer, I did not tell anybody because I was embarrassed about it. I didn't want to tell anybody. I didn't even want my parents to know. And when they brought it up, I didn't want them to even talk about it. So I didn't know how to deal with it because I was like, man, like I'm not a victim. It's whatever. Like just ignore it. Let's just keep going about our day. I'm not dead. It's just what it is. But when I talked to Dr. Hartlip, which is my professor in college, he was the first person to really say, don't make it look like you're a victim with it. Just speak your story so other people can learn from it. So me dealing with that, like I don't even wear hoodies to this day because of that situation. Like I'm not gonna wear a hoodie, no. So like me speaking on that situation of racial profiling and kind of how to avoid kind of some of the situations that happen, I hope that people can learn from it so they don't have to deal with the same thing. So when I started writing about it, I told my story and I got my story published. That was the first time me speaking it. But after I spoke about it, I was like, man, like I can go on and on about this. Like there's so many things that I've never really realized and I can really voice and people can listen to kind of what I'm saying and can learn from it. But I didn't want to do that first. It took me to writing it out to be able to process how to think about it. It took it, and that was the first time in my life that I was like, wow, like this is how you create your own voice. if there are things that everybody goes through, there's things you guys are going through even right now that are just obstacles that you guys are going through it. That if you guys told other people, then they would be better. Like, do you guys have a little brother?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, you have little siblings. You guys have little siblings, you know, brother, sister, and you guys tell them stuff because, oh man, I went through this. Like, you guys, what grade are you guys in?
Eighth grade.
8th grade. Like, man, I was 6th grade. It sucked. It sucked, and this is why it sucked. And then your little sibling, when they go to 6th grade, they're gonna be like, well, he or she said when they did that sucked, so I'm gonna do this. And then they completely avoid the crap you guys had to go through. And that is why I learned how to voice my situation and how to talk about what goes on. It doesn't have to be just social inequality or just a racial injustice. It can be everything that you go through in life.
Yeah. And going back to like where you were talking about like the African American teacher and him teaching math, I actually had an African American teacher last year for math, and he was probably my favorite teacher I've ever had because he made sure to like include everybody and understand where everybody like came from when he was teaching us, so he could equally explain it to everybody.
My man. That's where you get when you have different cultures, when you have a diverse like amount of teachers, you get taught differently also. You know, like when I was in school, I had all white women and white males. I didn't have any diverse teachers until I got to college, and I only had like 3, you know, so it really wasn't that much. And it like that sucks, you know, because that takes away from you guys too. Because if you guys have different cultures to teach you guys, then you guys' perspective will widen. And it's like, so that's what's unfortunate, because I feel like that's the best way to get the best amount of education, because now you have not just this one perspective, you have multiple perspectives.
Okay, so this is like a question that we didn't write down, but it's just a question I feel like right now. Like, did you ever like go to a school like that was kind of like this one was like it was pretty small and didn't like have or just didn't have a lot of diverse people in it?
I didn't go to any small schools. A lot of schools in the Chicagoland area are pretty big. So I had like 800 people in my graduating class in high school, and now I'm in Illinois State, and it's pretty big. But I will say this a bunch of times, when I walk into class, I'm the only black kid. So if I miss class, the teacher will definitely know. It's like I stick out like a sore thumb. Like I would walk in and there would be 200 students in a lecture hall, and I am legit the only black kid. Like what? And then, like if I remember one time I was in a lecture hall, the only black kid, and my parents taught me always sit in the front, like don't sit in the back, in the bus or in the back in classrooms. So I sit like in the the front-ish area. And then one time I missed class, and I tried to lie to my teacher like, yeah, like I was in class, I didn't understand it. He was like, oh no, you weren't there in class. I noticed. I was like, I bet you did notice. Like I was like, I'm the only black kid. I was like, I shouldn't have even tried that. But no, that sucks. It's when I walk in a classroom, I'm like the only black person. It also sucks if I'm in like a communications class or a class where we're gonna talk about like racial things, because I'm the spokesman for all black people at that point. So they talk about like, oh yeah, this happened. And it's like, oh, if it's minorities or black people, and they all just turn like, so does anybody want to talk about it? Anybody in the classroom can, but they're looking directly at me. It's like, could be anybody can talk about it. Kendall, did you raise your hand? No? Okay, thought you did. I'm like, oh my God. It's like, might as well just speak, But yeah, that kind of, it's kind of awkward at first, because you don't see anybody that looks like you, but you learn to work with it. It's just how it is.
Yeah, at my old school, like this is my first time here, my first time ever moving schools except for going into junior high. My old school, we had a lot of foreign exchange there, so there's a lot of different people. So when I came here, I was definitely really shocked. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah, it's different. Like, well, I encourage everybody in here, like, ask questions. Like, definitely ask questions. Don't just say like, oh man, I don't want to offend anybody. the most offensive thing you can do is go your life without asking these questions now, and then you just build your whole like mindset, your whole ideals and perspective based off of a lack of knowledge. You know, you guys may build it's going to happen. Like you're going to build a perspective of African Americans, but you guys aren't asking African Americans questions. You're going to build a perspective on Asian Americans without asking them questions. And it's like, is that a legit perspective to have? You know, it's like, it's not. You guys got to make sure you educate yourself. And main thing is like, I love my parents, like, and they're very open, but don't go off of just what your parents say. Don't go off of just what your brother or sister or somebody says. Don't go just off of that. That is a stepping stone, but don't just go off of that. Gain knowledge yourself. Gain your own perspective on serious matters. If you know you guys are all going to be in the working world, you guys have dreams. Like you guys want to have careers. You guys want to work with people. You guys are going to encounter every race. You guys want to make sure you do everything possible to make everybody comfortable. If you guys are going to be all bosses, everybody right here, you guys are all going to be CEOs. You guys are going to be bosses of companies. You guys are going to be millionaires. Every single person in this classroom. Okay? And you guys are going to be hiring people. And some of the people that you hire to be on a part of your team are going to be minorities. You want to make sure when they get into your business that they're comfortable, that they're ready to come in, that they can come in and not only feel comfortable, but that if they feel comfortable, they're going to give you 110%. Because they don't always feel comfortable for people. So we notice that. If a teacher comes in and makes me feel good, like it's not awkward, they don't just try to avoid the fact, like, oh, he's not black, he's just every other kid. Like, when they acknowledge that and then they make me feel comfortable, that's the best thing. Like, I feel like they care, they try to make it an equitable classroom, and then I'm like, oh, I gotta get an A in this class. I have to. Because they're trying hard, I'm gonna try hard. But is that time? Weird.
I don't know if we keep going.
Okay. Well, there's one that I really want to ask.
Okay.
So, when you are a teacher, do you plan on having a unit like ours or anything like that?
Yeah. You know I am. It'd be bogus if I didn't.
Yeah.
Like, there's not gonna be, like, the thing is, students are not gonna always get black male teachers. Like, it's really rare. Like, I've never had a black male teacher. So, me as a black male teacher, I am definitely going to do this. I am definitely going to do something like this because it's not only a racial thing, but this is something that can open your perspective on multiple areas. You know, you're learning about an issue with them, but you're also learning about things of police brutality. And then you can use that, so later on, when you guys have to write research papers, you guys look into it, then you guys can get your own perspective on police brutality. Because I don't have just like, oh, every police officer is bad, oh, police brutality. No, I don't believe that. My family has police officers. Are you serious? But I built that perspective, and it was units like this that helped me open my mindset to it. So yeah, I'm gonna have units like these in my classroom, and I'm gonna have different books that talk about different areas of life. It's gonna be books that talk about racial injustice. There's also gonna be books that talk about different races. You know, not just African Americans. I'm not just gonna teach for black kids. I'm gonna teach for all kids. I wanna create an equitable classroom. Because when you all have an equitable classroom and you have everybody engaged and everybody learning different things, then you have a healthy learning environment, and then everybody is accepting. Everybody's not afraid, and then everybody's learning different things. That's why I ask you guys, ask these questions. Like, you have, you know, a black male here, you know, that's older. You guys are not always gonna have opportunities like that. You never know. You know, you guys can move all to Alaska. I'm pretty sure there's not that many black people there. You know, and then, and then you won't even have opportunities like that. It's like, you never know what's gonna happen in the future. So ask the questions while it's there. Even if you're like, okay, it could be offensive, don't let that be an excuse. Because if you go your whole life without asking these questions and not building your own true perspective, then you're cheating yourselves out of really understanding the truth in life. Because media doesn't give the whole story. You know, and that's just the world we live in. But I guess we, oh yeah, it's over. All right, it was great talking to you guys.
Thank you.